We are live on the air. Or not on the air, but on my air. My MacBook Air. Or no, MacBook. Yeah, MacBook Air. It is a MacBook Air, yeah. Yo, what is up, you guys? Thanks for joining in for another Cup of Joe with Jag. My name is Jag. I've got my quote-unquote Cup of Joe. It is a Sonic drink, Route 44. It's kind of a combination of different kind of drinks. But this gentleman that I have for you guys today may sound a lot familiar to you from the last time we had the episode talking about some awesome comic books and everything. Please welcome back to the show, Jeff. What's up, dude?
Hey, how's everybody doing?
Round of applause, yeah. Thanks for coming back to the show, man. I'm really excited to have you on again. Last time we were talking about Jeff Johns' new comic book line that he was doing, Ghost Machine, introducing us to the world of that. Of course, introducing us to the world of comics, just kind of getting an overview of that as well. We went over Redcoat issue number 1, and it was awesome. There was a lot of great artistry. There's a lot of great artistry in there. A lot of great written dialogue. Of course, Jeff Johns, he is a great writer. His creativity is through the roof to think of the things that he thinks about.
Of course.
And the ideas that he comes up with is just amazing. It's just immaculate. But today, I hear you have some awesome comics to include a little bit more into what you introduced to us last time. So what do you got for us today, man?
Oh, we're going to just keep on diving into Redcoat. We got issue 2 of Redcoat by Jeff Johns and Brian Hitch, and then, of course, colorist Brad Anderson, letterer Rob Lay, inker Andrew Curry. And so we're going to dive into that. We're going to dive into Jason Aaron launched another creator-owned book. I think he's done some other creator-owned stuff before. This is published through Image Comics. Is called Bug Wars.
Bug Wars. There's hopefully going to be a lot of bug puns throughout this entire episode.
Hey, yeah, why not? But that's the bee's knees, you know.
Starting it off strong.
There we go.
Let's
but
go.
Yeah, so it's a great first issue. I'm excited for Bug Wars. It just launched this week. The first issue came out, so. It's awesome. If you want to check out some more behind the scenes kind of material stuff with Jason, there's interviews with him on YouTube actually. Excuse me. Already. And go check that out. He's a great writer. He's written a lot of Thor for a long time. He's written Conan the Barbarian. He's currently writing the current TMNT series at IDW right now.
Okay.
As well. He's writing Absolute Superman right now, because DC's doing an Absolute line of books, like different versions, absolute versions of the characters, as they're calling it, Absolute Superman, Absolute Wonder Woman, Absolute Batman, and they're going to launch an Absolute Green Lantern, Absolute Martian Manhunter, and Absolute Flash, which we're going to dive into Absolute Batman at some point here, is what we're going to be doing, diving into that, because that's my favorite out of all of the other ones I've read so far, for sure.
Yeah.
But today, we're going to discuss more adventures of Simon Pure, the Immortal Redcoat, and we're going to discuss Jason Aaron's Bug Wars.
Bug Wars. Yes.
So, my friend, I guess we can go ahead and dive in if you're ready to Redcoat number 2.
Let's do it, man. So this one ends with the first issue where he was put into the ground after the red hooded people had taken him out, quote unquote. And now he's introduced to a young Albert Einstein. We've introduced him.
Yeah, I was going to say, there was 3 dudes after him, and then his that one woman sold him out at the bar.
That's right.
And they shot him and took him out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In the story, anyways. Of course, he can't die. Granted, he got buried because he kind of he said that, I kind of just go to sleep, if you will, and kind of everything kind of goes black, right? And then he wakes up inside a coffin. And he's apparently had experience digging his way out of a coffin because he's immortal, can't die. But turns out someone's already digging, and it's Albert Einstein, a young Albert Einstein, like a teenage Albert Einstein. Yeah. And the dudes with the robes, the kind of magic cultist kind of looking guys, that seemingly did the spell that made him immortal, have showed up, and that's where we're at right now. That's where we open with issue 2, where Albert Einstein and Simon are trying to fight these guys off.
Mm-hmm.
Albert's got a shovel, beating him with a shovel that he uses to dig Simon up. Simon's saying that, he's not that great of a shot. He says, of course, he's narrating it that it's November 1892. It's 116 years after he deserted the Battle of Trenton, which is, of course, the battle during the Revolutionary War.
Yeah.
And he inadvertently became, immortal. And he said, since that time, I've spent, his never-ending life living hand-to-mouth, most often as an assassin for hire. Of course, he says that sounds a bit fancy, because he says, I've never been a good shot. And then we have a panel here of, of course, incredible Brian Hitch artwork where Simon's 1776 is the year, flashbacks panel saying he's got a musket going. Does anyone know how to work this thing? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I'm paraphrasing a lot as I skim through here, because I always want to make sure to promote reading and say, hey, support these books. And we're not sponsored by anybody, but I buy this with my own money that I earn.
Yeah.
But I want you to go out there and read the books for yourself. Buy them, enjoy them, read them, and support when you buy these creator-owned books, you are supporting the creators directly, Yeah. Of course, I'm going to say if you love reading Batman, go buy Batman, read Batman.
Right.
But the cool thing about buying a creator-owned book published through Image, and of course, and this being a company that Jeff started with other creators called Ghost Machine, you buy their books, you support those creators. You know what I mean? It supports them essentially, directly to them versus going through them working for a big company, right?
Right. Yeah. And only getting like a portion of
right.
it or something. Yeah.
Yeah, only a portion.
Exactly.
Correct. And so, he's filling out on a musket in 1776, saying he doesn't even know how to work this. And then, of course, 1841, he's got a revolver. He's he's shooting at a guy, and then, of course, he hits a guy's hat. But then Simon says, however, if you do something often, long enough, say for a century,
you kind of adapt
and you kind of become good at it, right?
Yeah.
So then it goes back to present time, 1892, and he takes a couple of guys out. But then a guy hits Simon in the chest, kind of like or abdomen area, with an axe, a small axe. He hits him. And then, of course, he thinks nothing of it, per se, as they fight the rest of these dudes off. And young Albert Einstein grabs the axe, and more guys are on the way. And then he turns around. Simon's already running into the cemetery, hopping a fence. So Albert has to run as he's getting shot at, and he catches up with Simon. And Albert basically is explaining to Simon that he says what's happening in this as they're talking. He says that Simon's narrating, going that Albert apparently left Munich, which is in Germany, 15 days ago. He stowed away on a steamship from Hamburg to the Boston Harbor to reach the States because he's looking for Simon. Right? And Simon's just narrating, thinking that, hey, man, I'm just really hungry. I love a beef pie and a pint right now, is what Simon's saying. Mm-hmm. He's trying to, get away from him, because he's like, oh, leave me alone, kid, or whatever. He's like, I bid you farewell, Alvin. He goes, it's Albert Einstein. He's like, and Albert's trying to tell him, you must hear my story, and you must help. He's like, I'm helping myself. He's what Simon's saying. Then, of course, all of a sudden, a big energy, it's depicted as looks like blue fire. All of a sudden, comes out of Simon's wound, where he get hit by the small axe. So apparently, this axe actually really hurt him. He's used to not being too mortally wounded because he's immortal. He can't die. As we already have seen, where he's been shot and he basically just fell asleep and then woke back up alive and healed up, right?
Right.
But apparently something's happening with this small axe. It looks like a hatchet, essentially. And it's got these magical-looking, drawings inscribed on the metal for some reason. And Albert is telling him that, hey, he's seen these markings before in his research. He says that you're in great danger. And apparently everyone in the United States is in great danger. That's why Albert's trying to tell Simon. And so they hop a train to go see the only other immortal from Simon's time that he knows of that's still around, That is none other than Benedict Arnold. Of course, the famous historical figure that was a Washington loyalist, but he turned turncoat and was working for the British Army, of course, during the Revolutionary War.
Right.
You know, they're on a train though, and apparently Albert is told Simon this. Simon narrates that Albert's sister, 11-year-old sister, was having dreams of the past, present, and future. Dreams of a glowing men, metal soldiers, and an immortal mercenary in a red coat.
See, those sound just so familiar
Right.
to
So
me.
if you're reading any of the Ghost Machine books, and if you're reading there's just the three. There's three of the books are in a universe called the Unnamed Universe.
Yes.
That's Geiger, Junkyard Joe, and Redcoat. And so his sister apparently is having dreams of past, present, and future. She says of a glowing men, which is Geiger.
Mm-hmm.
Of metal soldiers was Junkyard Joe. So we're seeing how this universe is connected. We're tying things together, and I'm excited to see how all this is going to tie together at some point,
Yeah.
because the most powerful of the visions apparently that Albert's telling Simon was the entire young nation, talking about America, burning from coast to coast in the aftermath of a ritual gone very, very wrong, which we know in Geiger apparently it's a nuclear war happened in Geiger in the future, right? And then there, of course there's just the wasteland, everything, the fallout, and everything being burned, right? So Albert's telling Simon all of this, and he's of course came to America to find the man in the red coat. Presumably Simon says, I guess that's me. I'm the man in the red coat. And Albert's telling Simon that you have the power to save the world, and you are a wizard. And Simon says, well, I've told you, Einstein, I'm anything but a wizard, That's what he's telling him. So, and there's a cool moment where Brian Hitch depicts wonderfully as Brian Hitch draws this amazing artwork by Brian Hitch.
Yeah.
Albert's looking out the window of the train going, this new country. He goes, it is wonderful. He goes, Albert goes, we must protect this land. It's spectacular. And Simon's kind of like, And Albert's like, you don't think so? Then why have you chosen to live here? He goes, and Simon goes, I had enough of jolly old England long ago. He goes, I got bad memories and such there. And work here has been steady in the new world. And Albert, of course, asks, what is his career exactly? He goes, I'm a tailor. Of course, he lies to him because we know he's a mercenary.
Yeah.
He's a gun for hire, right? And Albert's telling Simon, too, that the symbols on this axe, he's seen them in his sister's drawings. So she's been drawing stuff, too, that she's been seeing in her dreams and visions. And he recognizes these drawings on the axe because his sister's been drawing these symbols on this axe.
Yeah.
Too. And then all of a sudden, as they're talking about discussing this more, all of a sudden another blast of magical fiery blue energy comes out of Simon's wound. And the axe also lights up blue, too. So they make their way. The next couple pages cuts to, I believe they stop in New York City. We're in New York City now.
Yeah.
Of course, we've been on the East Coast this entire time, but they take a train to New York City, right? I believe, and we see horses and carriages, and apparently there's a big fancy kind of dinner party / ball going on because we see people, dancing around, waltzing, I guess you could say, whatever. And of course Simon's like, I'm here to get some food first, man. I'm hungry, because apparently he's
always hungry.
Yeah, apparently, like he said, since he's been immortal, he never feels full.
Yeah.
Kind of I guess after effect of being immortal is that you're always hungry. You never feel like you have a full belly.
That was that reference to the first one on the first I think it was the first few panels when he's running away from those people, and he says, I could feel the beans and the whatever grumbling in my
talking about
stomach.
when he's wakes up in his room and those three guys bust in.
Yeah, and it's kind of calling back to that.
Right, I think so.
Yeah.
It's something apparently it's going to be a recurring trope is that he's always hungry. He can since he's been immortal, he's never felt the satisfaction of a full stomach.
And it's so funny because that. Did Jeff Johns ever do Flash stuff? Did he ever kind of dive into Flash?
Oh yeah, he did a lot. He wrote Flash for a long time. And he wrote some of the two of my favorite Flash stories, Flashpoint
Mm.
and then Flash Rebirth.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Which
Flashpoint. I remember seeing a cover for that, but I've never read that
we'll
one.
dive into one
That
day.
one today.
But yeah, Flash got a super fast metabolism,
Mhm.
which because he's a speedster and he has to fuel himself. But I think it's just I see what you're saying, but I think
yeah,
it's
that kind of
it's
connection.
kind of connection. But I don't think so because I think it's just because he's immortal, he can't die.
Yeah.
But apparently because he can't die, and he's lived for so long, he never can have satisfaction of a full stomach. I don't know if that'll. Maybe it's just a recurring joke that Jeff wanted to do to add to the character of Simon and him being immortal, maybe.
Okay.
So
yeah.
I don't know. There's not any in-depth details about that yet. I don't know if we will find out anything more about that, unless it's just part of the after effects of being immortal. For whatever kind of magic stuff that they used on him.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, so they find, as Simon put it, it's the feast for kings before me that most catches my eye as they make their way through the servants' quarters and into the ballroom. And of course, Albert's like, well, which one is he? Because looking for Benedict Arnold, and he's like, in due time. He's like, right now, dinner is served. So of course, there's a big, huge table of food. And he's chowing down, And he goes, as delightful as the first bite is, I'll be paying for it, because all of a sudden, sooner than expected, he says, because Benedict Arnold comes up behind him and recognizes him. And of course, Simon narrates saying that, now most of you must know that, Benedict Arnold, as one of Washington's loyalists turned traitor. But you will not be educated on is that he was caught up in the same rituals of the founding fathers and given immortality like me at some point in time. Excuse me. Of course, it says apparently he's saying that the details are kept secret, like they remain secret. We don't know how per se, but apparently he's caught up in the same rituals as Simon was, to make him immortal.
Yeah.
But the details are secret. What isn't, though, as secret is the fact that Benedict Arnold became a turncoat in 1780. He defected to the British Army, right?
Yeah.
So they meet him, but apparently since that life, Benny, as Simon is calling him, has gone by other names, hiding his identity, never-ending nature, of course, but from everyone but me. Apparently, Benedict Arnold sees Simon as a rival, which Simon doesn't really think of him as that. He doesn't care. He's not that I ever measure myself against him. He's like, I don't care, man. You could think of our rivals or measure yourself against me. I don't really, I don't care,
Yeah.
And so, and Benedict asks him what brings him to his doorstep. He's like, apparently he says that he scoffs at Simon saying he could use a bath. And he's like, oh, you're hungry. And Simon goes, he knows I always am. Because they're similar, because they're both immortal, right? So of course he would know he's always hungry.
Because he's probably hungry as well.
Yes. He's like, do you need money from me again? And apparently Benedict could ask him. He's like, no, I've got plenty, Benny. Really? And then Benedict Arnold goes, he's like, you finally figured out how to take advantage of the endless life we've been bestowed. You've made proper investments in your future, both financial and strategic. Because apparently Benedict Arnold jumped on board, taking advantage of being alive so long and making lots of money, right?
Yeah.
And Simon's like, well, yes, I'm doing fine this very moment. If you have your life sorted out, then what do you need from me then? So Benedict Arnold's saying, he's like, of course, all of a sudden this beautiful woman comes up to Benedict Arnold saying, hey, I think I knew I thought she was saying, sorry, getting tongue twisted there. She's just saying, I thought I knew all of your associates and neighbors, and of course, Benedict says that this is my dear childhood friend. And Simon's like, I'm Pure, Simon Pure. A pleasure, Mr. Pure. It's Juliet Morgan. And that's who this woman apparently is, that I guess is maybe a girlfriend to Benedict Arnold, apparently, as we see here. And he just goes, Simon just goes, oh, this is my nephew, talking about Albert Einstein, from Munich, from Germany. As they're talking, kind of covering up their story there to keep themselves a secret, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, because apparently she's the older daughter of John Pierpont Morgan and my mother, Frances. You mean the J.P. Morgan? Yes, that's what Albert Einstein asked her. Why, yes, and where do you venture from, Mr. Pure? Boston, milady. As our Simon, I guess, kind of stays at where we were earlier, was Boston.
Yeah.
Boston being an old, town, right? A lot of history there, by all means. Of course, Boston Red Sox, if you're a baseball fan.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Just a side note, side tangent.
Yes.
But anyways, they're just discussing things here as she's talking to Benedict, meeting Simon and Albert Einstein here. And, of course, she's just ready to dance with Benedict. And Benedict goes, if there's business to discuss, we'll have to do that later at the end of the ball. And I'm afraid it must, talking about it must wait. I have a woman to entertain, talking about, going dancing with Juliet here.
Mm.
And he goes, Benedict's like, and besides, neither of you were invited. He's kind of, a little glare at them, type of deal. Well, they wait in looks like maybe his office or a library, both. And Albert Einstein's like, Albert's like, he locked the doors. In this room, there's something odd about it, right? And Albert's like, we're trapped in here. And Simon just goes, you're not going to finish your prime rib? And, Albert's really kind of freaking out, saying, hey, we're trapped in here. The doors are locked. This room's kind of odd. Apparently, the far wall of the study ends before the building outside does. And Simon just goes, are you going to finish your prime rib?
He's just hungry. I'm still hungry. Are you going to fish that?
And he's like, you should not have asked Miss Morgan to dance in front of your friend. Yeah. Apparently, he asked him to dance, Juliet to dance with him, which probably didn't make Benedict too happy. If that's just like, the woman he's trying to court and, kind of has a crush on, if you will, however you want to put it. Probably didn't make him feel too. And Simon goes, he's not a friend of mine, so he doesn't really care, that he did ask her to dance, right? Benny needs to be put in his place occasionally, is what Simon says. So that's pretty funny. I like that.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, that girl was kind of looking at me. That's what Simon said. He's like, but Albert's like, but now we're wasting valuable time in your wound. My wound? He goes, psst. I feel better already. Whatever you believed was happening to me has ceased to bother me, which is not the case. Because as Albert is in front of the door, all of a sudden Benedict busts through the door opening and knocking down Simon. And Benedict busts through the door knocking down Albert Einstein, right? And Simon goes to Benny. He goes, Benny. He's calling him Benny, by the way, Benedict Arnold. He goes, help him up and apologize to him. And Benedict's kind of a jerk, going like, for what? He's like, you've come all this way. What do you want? A handout? Help from the authorities? You know what I mean? That's what Benedict Arnold is asking Simon. He's like, hurry up. I don't have all night. There's Juliet's waiting for me, right? And he kind of walks over. He just kind of, he doesn't step on Albert, but he just walks over him, he doesn't help him up, doesn't apologize. Kind of a jerk, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden there's that wound, though, with that blue, fiery-looking magical energy burst out of the wound again and knocks Simon to the ground as we see a big, epic 2-page spread. Like this could be a poster right here of Simon having a vision. He sees like so from what I can tell, I'm going to safe to assume in this case that it's the nuclear fallout of the future where Geiger is roaming the land, you know what I mean, of the glowing man,
kind
Geiger.
Like
foreshadowing, because we see like the cities and people, like everything's burning. But we do see one of the like hooded guys with robes from the cultists, and we see a bunch of skeletons, of course, as Simon's having this vision of like the future and how like this apocalypse is happening, if you will, as nuclear war happens, right?
Yeah.
And then it cuts back to Simon fell down out of the chair on the ground. And Albert just yells, Mr. Pure. And Benedict's like, what's wrong with him? And Albert goes, I believe he's cursed. By that, points to the axe. And the axe, by the way, when the wound glows blue fire, the axe also glows blue.
Yeah.
The same blue fiery energy around it. And Benedict calls it, oh my gosh, the axe of lies. He was cut with that. His blood was spilled, and Albert's like, yeah, you know what it is? And he goes, Benedict Arnold's kind of just laughing like, oh my, like, sorry. Kind of like laughing rhetorically, right? Yeah. He goes, you really did it this time, Simon. And he's telling him that apparently he'll be dead in 3 days, and for good this time. And then it cuts to just going, next month, Simon says, we cut to like, wait till next month for issue 3. And of course, we get a cover page, the cover to issue 3, next month, issue 3, red coat. And it goes, the secrets of Simon's immortality revealed in issue 3. So we got to wait and we'll cover issue 3 of course.
Yeah.
And that's when we'll learn more about, apparently, the secrets of Simon's immortality are revealed. Excuse me again. In issue 3. So yeah, this issue is a good issue. I actually would probably like issue 1 more than issue 2. This one is just kind of like, I think, laying the stepping stone foundation of, we're going on this adventure with Albert Einstein. We kind of got a lot of exposition from him, learning about how why did he leave Munich, Germany, to come to America to find the man in the red coat?
Yeah.
His sister having visions of a glowing men, of metal soldiers too. Sorry, excuse me again. Which if you're reading the books, you know that she's referring to Geiger and she's referring to Junkyard Joe, right? And so we're this issue is definitely like a building block right here of more of the mythology of what Jeff is, the world that Jeff's creating.
Yeah.
And apparently Simon got hurt by this axe, and apparently he's finally gets a vision of the nuclear war in the future, and it will happen in Geiger's time in the future. So I'm excited to see, as I'm behind on reading Geiger currently. I got to catch up. We'll dive into Geiger too, and we'll dive into Redcoat, as like I said, with issue 3 next time we could get on and record. But I'm loving it. It's great stuff. Like this is I would say I would love issue 1 more than this, just because
there's a lot more action.
More action to it.
Yeah.
But this is definitely a good, solid, important piece of the pie, if you will, being baked here.
Yeah.
Because it's definitely shows us that apparently Simon can be hurt by some sort of magical infused axe that's made by apparently the guys that had casted the spell to make him immortal.
Yeah.
And apparently Benedict Arnold knows of this axe and knows information about it. So we'll have to, the secrets of his immortality apparently get revealed in issue 3, and we'll see what does Albert and Simon do to help heal Simon up to where he keeps on going. Right. We'll see what happens. I'm excited to see what happens, but Brian Hitch is killing it with the art. It looks fantastic.
If y'all ever get this comic, like I'm just saying, the artwork in it is just.
It's very cinematic. It's very well drawn. The action's always great.
Especially those 2 pages.
Right. Especially that big 2-page spread.
Oh yeah.
That definitely could be easily turned into a poster right there, I think.
Yes.
To have of Simon having the vision.
Even in the first one, when they had that 2-point spread with him breaking out the window, that could be
him breaking out the window.
poster.
Which, by the way, that image is on my red coat shirt I bought from the Ghost Machine official merch store. They got an official merch store. You can buy T-shirts, hats, beanies. You can buy coffee mugs there too. Like I said, we're not sponsored by nobody.
Nah.
But I'm as a fan. I love these creators. I love their books that they're doing, and they have some great merch, by the way, too. Because I just want to help support. The creators I love. That way they can keep doing this and keep turning out great comics, great stories to read and enjoy.
Exactly.
But again, check out Redcoat. Please do. Check out Redcoat number 2. Like I said, Redcoat currently the current issue is issue 9 actually.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I said, we're gonna work our way there, take our time, work our way there, cover each issue,
Yeah.
But I know that the first trade paperback will be out here soon. I think next month or maybe the next, but here soon they're gonna do the first trade paperback of Redcoat. It'll be collecting the first 7 issues. So you want to catch up, you can just pick up that trade actually, and then track and then have the first 7 right there.
Yeah.
And then you can just pick up 8 and 9. You'll be right up to date with the story for Redcoat for Simon's adventures, anyways.
That'd be nice.
So I know that issue 7, I think, concludes the story arc with Albert, and then issue 8 I haven't read yet actually, but that I think introduces a character called the Northerner that he meets, and then issue 9 is a wonderful, wonderful, amazing issue about friendship, where he has a friendship with Johnny Appleseed. It's a very just one self-contained one-shot issue adventure about his adventure with Johnny Appleseed in Ohio there. It's wonderful. But Jeff Johns is a great writer. Brian Hitch is a great artist. The whole, the letterer, the colorist, the inker, they have a great creative team on these books, especially on Redcoat, on Geiger, on Junkyard Joe, on everything they're doing at Ghost Machine. I can't say it enough, stress it enough. Go check these books out. Go support them. I guarantee you, your money will be you'll be well invested into some great stories. You'll be entertained. You'll have a great time. And again, I just want to go around and promote reading. I think everyone needs to read more, by all means, read for enjoyment, read for knowledge. I'm guilty of this too. Put the screens down for a moment and read.
I'm going to just slowly lift up my hand too on that one.
And read, you know what I mean? Go outside and read inside. I know it's still wintertime where we're at here in the country, but, in the next couple of months here, hopefully things will be warming up and spring will be here, and go outside and read. I love going outside like on a summer night, and getting a little candle going and just reading outside, or especially during the day in the summer sun and reading by all means.
Yeah, have like a little porch swing or something
right.
like that out.
I don't have a porch swing, but that'd be nice. If you do, that would be nice sitting in the porch swing and read. But get your cup of Joe, right, as we say here at the Cup of Joe with Jag.
Yeah.
I'm all about great comics, great coffee.
I remember our one of our church groups went to a trip up in the mountains, and where we were at, there were some like swings that were like cushioned almost. They were like mushroom
Oh,
swings.
wow. Very nice.
Mushroom swings. There was like 2 of them right in a row. And I'm telling you, dude, like you could fall asleep in one of those. Because you were swinging in it, and you looked out, and it was like the mountain range.
Just the beautiful mountain range. Nice warm weather.
Yeah. Yeah, at the time that we were up there.
Yeah, the time was nice and warm.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. But yeah, there's Bread Coat issue 2.
Issue 2.
So we're having some fun adventures with Simon and Albert Einstein. We're this book series so far, Simon's going to meet different people from history and American folklore, right? So and I love that stuff. As you know me, Jag, I'm a big history buff. I love learning about history.
Yeah.
And so this is like one of my favorite comics for sure right now I'm reading. But as we transition now from Red Coat, we're still hanging around Image. Don't worry, folks. Like, we're going to talk about some Marvel books in the future. We're going to talk about some DC books. I mentioned Absolute Batman. We're going to dive into that by Scott Snyder. That's probably
Jeff Johns hasn't officially left DC. He's still doing stuff for DC.
Yeah, well,
right?
he's more of a freelancer now, right?
Yeah,
where he's not like necessarily like under contract with DC. He was like their chief creative officer for a long time. He was one of the head guys at DC. So he actually just wrapped up. He came back and did a Justice Society of America series at DC, and that kind of just wrapped up. I think ended sometime beginning of last year, I believe, because there's one hardcover collecting the first 6, and another hardcover that just probably came out. I think this week. I haven't got. I need to get that collects the other 6, 7 through 12 of the JSA series. He just wrapped up. We'll talk about his DC stuff from the past though, because he was a DC guy for a long time.
Over 20 years?
Yeah, I think he started writing JSA in like 99.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So, but anyways, though, we're going to transition over. We're hanging around some more creator-owned stories here. We're going Jason Aaron. You might recognize his name if you read Thor. And in the past 15 years, if you've read any Thor, he did Thor for a long time. He did some Wolverine as well. He has done Avengers. He has done a great self-contained series that I love. That's a very fun one called The Astonishing Spider-Man and Wolverine, about a story of Wolverine and Spider-Man traveling through time. They get sent through time by accident and travel through time, actually.
Oh, wow.
It's a great, fun story. I recommend it. We'll talk about that one day, too. But anyways, he's just released a creator-owned book through Image called Bug Wars.
Here's where the puns come in.
Right? And so, yeah, it's the bee's knees, right? There you go. Hey. So, and I will say this book.
I hope it doesn't bug anybody out.
Oh, yeah. Well, I will say this book is not for young bugs. So,
yes, correct.
It's not for young readers.
They want to go ahead and point that out real quick.
Just point it out. It's awesome. I love it. It's great. But it is rated M for mature for a reason. Yeah. Because there's some people getting, there's some hacking and slashing with swords and axes in this book, and it is pretty awesome and epic, but not for young bugs, if you will.
Exactly.
So only for big bugs, only for big bugs. Yep, only for adult bugs, right? Fully. I'm sorry, I'm cracking myself up. But anyway, so Bug Wars, just get on YouTube, type in Jason Aaron. He's been doing some interviews on YouTube, I found, talking about Bug Wars, promoting the book, talking about the book. I think Image Comics and their official YouTube channel now actually has launched a podcast about comics itself, actually, finally, too. So he did an interview there. But Bug Wars, I loved it. It's phenomenal. It's kind of like Chronicles of Narnia. You get sent to a fantasy world, but it's got the brutality of Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah.
Because Conan the Barbarian, the Hyborian age, if you will, created by Robert E. Howard. Of course, Roy Thomas and Barry Windsor Smith launched the comic book series that Marvel did, the first comic book series of Conan the Barbarian, starting in 1971, and that ran for like 275 issues, so a long time. Yeah. And so, I safe to say that am I the biggest Conan fan because I'm still learning a lot about Conan the Barbarian. I'm still reading a lot of the stories. I have all the omnibuses that Marvel put out. Titan Comics currently holds the licensing to Conan. Marvel, they lost the license to Conan. They got it back. In 2018, they launched some new series of Conan that Jason Aaron actually wrote, by the way, too, because he's a Conan fan. But I got all the omnibuses that Marvel did produce. They actually reprinted the whole comic series of Conan, so from issue 1 all the way to 275. So I have all the hardcovers to collect all that, the hardcover omnibuses. They tried reprinting the magazine, too, as well. They made it to volume 8, so they didn't get all 250, I think, issues of the magazine. But Titan actually has come back, and they're picking up where Marvel left off with the Conan omnibuses, by the way. Yeah. So Conan the Savage Sword of Conan, which is the name of the magazine that Marvel printed Conan stories in, because they were longer stories, because you could do longer stories in the magazine format that they used to do. And they ended with volume 8 on their omnibus hardcover reprints, and Titan actually started with volume 9. So I gotta get on board with that, so I can finish the magazine series Savage Sword of Conan that was done by Marvel originally back in the day. But anyways, so if you're a Conan the Barbarian fan, if you're a fan of the movie, which is a great movie by with Schwarzenegger in, of course, that's what Schwarzenegger kind of took off as an actor, was being Conan the Barbarian in the 1982 movie. You'll love this. If you love fantasy stories, you'll love this. If you love any kind of story, classic story of, someone getting shrunk down and hanging out with a bunch of insects and running around a backyard, you'll love this. Except, like I said, again, mature readers. This has got some brutality in it. Not for young bugs. But it really speaks to your inner kid about, going in your backyard, running around. And really, as a kid, your backyard is like this. It's like in Lord of the Rings, it's like Middle Earth to you.
And as you were speaking, I actually am thinking of it was an animated movie, but for the life of me,
You talking about the Studio Ghibli movie?
No,
called Secret Worlds of Arrietty?
No, not that one.
Okay, that's based on a book called The Borrowers, I believe, or like Borrowers. Sorry.
Yeah.
My bad.
No, you're
get tongue twisted pretty easy.
This one was I think it was Pixar. I think it was a Pixar because it was a 3D animation one, and it was a kid who had like spiky orange looking hair.
Yes, not Pixar. I know what you're talking about though.
You know what I'm talking about? I can't remember the name of the movie.
I was looking up that movie the other day because they I think the version you can watch now is the original British release and cut. It was a British, I think, a studio that did that. I think I could be wrong because like when they brought it to America, they kind of did a different cut of it. I think when that got released in theaters. Yeah. I can't remember the name of that movie for the life of me now. I was looking that up actually a few months ago.
If anybody listening in, if you remember this movie, if you know what,
put it in the comments down below. Because there's that one that he discovers a secret world. Mm-hmm. And then there's another one where a boy, there's a young boy that gets bullied a lot, and so he terrorizes the anthill in his yard.
That's the one. That's the one I'm thinking about.
There's two of them actually that came out around the same era, the
era
mid
and stuff.
2000s. There,
Yeah.
they weren't Pixar movies, but they were 3D CG computer generated animated movies.
Yeah.
But
there was one called Ants. I remember Ants.
well, Ants is before.
That
That
was
was kind
way
of like the
before.
DreamWorks answer to, like, I guess Pixar's Bugs Life, because
Yeah.
Ants.
Okay.
There's a lot of things in there that you wouldn't think about as a kid. That there's some that you realize as an adult, you're kind of like, huh. You look at some of those jokes, and Ants is a lot more brutal because apparently there's a war between ants and termites where the people
Yes.
die.
Yeah.
You know, in that movie. But anyways, that's just what I'm thinking of. I can't. Maybe it is called Ants. There's more.
Yeah.
My point is, there's a lot of movies about people getting shrunk down. You know,
Yeah,
even like the
yeah.
movie Honey, I Shrunk the
The
Kids.
Yep.
You
that
know,
one right there.
but
Mhm.
this is not lighthearted though.
No, no, no.
Like I said, it's kind of like those movies. You know, a little bit of this too reminds me of the Spiderwick Chronicle books. Have you ever read those?
Yeah, yeah. The where he has the glass eye.
Yep,
glass thing.
yep. You can see he can see
can
all
see
the
the
fairies and goblins
fairies.
with the seeing stone, I believe it's called.
It was the movie that came out too.
Yeah, they did do a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, excuse me. But the books are great. I'm currently got to reread those. I read them as coming out when I was in junior high, middle school. They were coming out, and I was reading those books. I love those books. But, you know, they kind of move into an old Victorian. The family moves into an old Victorian era house. It's a single mom. She has 3 kids, an older daughter, and then her younger brothers are twin brothers. And apparently they're like great uncle, maybe just one great. Apparently he left them this house they moved into. It's a very old Victorian era style house, and they find his study, and where he recorded apparently seeing all these fantasy creatures and stuff like fairies and brownies and things of that nature, right, and goblins. But anyways,
Back on track. Yeah.
Oh no, we're still on track. We're
still
on track. But you know,
yeah, oh, yeah.
lots of things reminds me of this book. But if you love that stuff, you will love Bug Wars by Jason Aaron. And I'm sorry for the life of me, I won't try to pronounce the artist's name, but he's worked with Jason Aaron on multiple occasions. I think they did some of the Thor together. They did Conan the Barbarian together, but now they're doing this book, Bug Wars, together. And I'll read you the opening little prologue here. It says, "In the yard, there's talk of atrocities, where word has come from the frontier hives and the pine lands of Might, that's MYTE, colonies, and bug herds reduced to ruin. Some speak of a mysterious storm slaughtering all within its path." Again, brutal stuff happens in this book. You know, and apparently, but among the beetle clans, suspicions turn as always to an age-old enemy. So when tempers flare at a tavern in Barktown, I love the names too of the stuff in here, the barbarians proceed to berserk themselves on old suckle rum. Talking about honeysuckles, by the way. And I don't know the whole range of honeysuckles, but if you grew up in the South, honeysuckles are everywhere. They're in the fields or in the woods. They're these nice, wonderful yellow flowers, have a sweet nectar. That's what they call them, honeysuckles, by the way. They smear their flesh with cricket viscera. Viscera, I can't pronounce that word. I'm not too frightful not to admit that I can't pronounce it. I think it's saying cricket guts, though. I think it's what that's saying, or cricket blood. And ride for the nearest anthill. So the book opens up with an amazing, like, 2-page spread, 2 big top panels of these beetle barbarians. I love that. So we've got these small people, right? Little people they're small enough to ride the backs of beetles, okay? And they're charging an anthill. They're like, you know, they're going like, kill the whole anthill, you know? So they're charging this anthill, and Jason, in some interviews I was listening to, said that he kind of modeled these beetle riders based on barbarians, and the ants are more kind of like the Roman Empire. So you know how the Romans called some of their soldiers centurions, right? Well, the ants they call the Queen's army, they call them anturians, if you will. So I love this creative thinking of crossing all this together with this in this fantasy world, right? And the leader of, I guess, the Anturians, she which I think all the ant kind of people. Their soldiers are more kind of like more kind of almost remind me of Amazonians a little bit, which makes sense because like ants, their leader is a queen. They're always about the queen, right? Because the queen's like the leader in charge because she's the one that lays all the eggs and they protect the queen. The queen's the life of the ant hill, kind of like bees, and she's the life of the hive, right? So the Anturians, if you will, as they call them, they charge in the battle, man, with all coming out the anthill, the ants, and they yell for the glory of the Ant Imperium. And we see, decapitations, like people getting slaughtered as the ant, these ants are modeled kind of after the Roman Empire. They're clad in armor, armored helmets and armored chest plates and everything. As the beetle riders are kind of just wearing more like, loincloths and like little, just bits and pieces of stuff because they're more like a barbarian, right? Hacking, so there's all kinds of hacking and slashing. Like I said, straight up Conan the Barbarian. Like if you love Conan the Barbarian, if you've read any of the comics or Conan books, it's straight up just like that, like the action. If you're reading a Conan story, by all means, except you're in a small miniature world where these people are riding beetles and there's ants. They're all fighting each other, just going to town. Great, crazy, epic battle scenes, right? Then all of a sudden, one of the beetle barbarians and one of the ant soldiers, Anturians, if you will, she goes, what witchery? And then the ant barbarian goes, blessed bloody war weevil. All of a sudden, like in this epic 2-page spread, which is beautifully drawn, I'm telling you, the art in this book's fantastic. For the storm came first, and just this giant like wind dust bowl-esque storm takes them all out. Like unfortunately, everybody. The ants, the beetle riders, all of them are just engulfed in this crazy Dust Bowl-esque looking storm, and it wipes them all out. And apparently, word of this massacre, they call it like a massacre, it spreads through the honey thicket, so where all the wildflowers grow, the kind of like the wasp nest area. There's maggot monks, which kind of like set up shop in a poor deceased dog, And they got like a brush pile or swarm city. You got like these old ferns where like a lot of these spider kind of like witches are hiding out. The witches are weird webs, everything else. The word spreads about it. And then we cut to it's just a teenager mowing the yard with a push mower.
Mowing the yard.
So to him, it's just mowing the yard. But to the small mite people, as they call themselves, it annihilated a whole bunch of them.
World is ending.
So apparently, we cut to our characters here. There's a single mom with her 2 boys. And our main character of Slade here, he's upset that apparently his older brother Sid is mowing over the anthills on purpose. He don't like that because Sid likes insects a lot. He loves bugs like his dad. So apparently his dad passed away. They moved back to this old house that his dad grew up in where he fell in love with bugs that his dad still owned, where his dad also passed away at, though. And we're in a town called West Bottom, Alabama. So we're in the South, folks, which we live in the Southeast. So it's kind of really hits home for me in more ways than one, honestly, as a book. Because I love learning about things. I love learning about bugs and insects and everything myself. And, of course, I ran around my backyard as a kid looking under rocks for any kind of bugs I could find. And, right? So, the mom tries to tell him not to do that, to mow around the ant hills, and of course he pretends not to hear her. You know what I mean?
What?
Right?
Okay, hear you over the mower.
Right. So they're moving in. They're trying to unpack stuff, and the mom's talking to Slade about it's been a difficult move, especially hard for your brother. He goes, I know, Mom. I know it's weird coming back to the house where Dad, is where he passed away at, right?
Yeah.
And apparently, the reason why it's really hard for the brother, because when he was younger, he's the one that discovered his dad when he passed away, right? So, but they're discussing, Mom's talking to Slade, like, did you, your bugs make the trip okay? He's like, yeah, looks like they're okay. They just seem kind of agitated, probably from the move. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's just a sweet moment about the son and mother talking to each other here. and she's asking him just to make sure your bugs stay in your room, that until your brother feels more comfortable here. And he's like, "Sure, Mom, of course." And he goes, "I love you," and he goes, "I love you so much." And sweet moment there between the two of them. She's trying to call an exterminator, by the way, to come spray the house because nobody's lived in it for 12 years.
Yeah.
But apparently, as soon as she tells them it's the Slaymaker house, she gets like, they just hang up on her for some reason. And she's like, "Wow, that's the fourth one." So like, no one wants to go to this house for some reason. We don't know why. So I think we're gonna learn more about that as time goes forward.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's like the afternoon, and the older son's freaking out, thinking he hears the bugs in the walls. Apparently, he's been spraying cans of this Ray's bug killer, kind of like this fictional bug killer in this story here, all over the place. He sprayed like 10 cans apparently. He's just trying to kill all the bugs, and because he hates them, he really hates them. And of course, that kind of conflicts with the younger brother, our main character of Slade. Mm-hmm. He loves them. And at least loves learning about them, raising them in his glass terrariums, and caretaking for them, feeding them, and learning about them and raising them. Well, the mom is going to work. He's like, "I thought you already worked today." And she's like, "Well, that's my first job." She has 2 jobs, single mom, right? So she's going to do a second job.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Can you take Sydney, his older brother, with you?" And he's like, because he don't want him around. She's like, "I've told your brother he has to control his temper. But maybe just hang out here and here tonight. I'm about his room, Mm-hmm. He's like, okay. So he's just being alone in his room, trying to hang out with his insects, his bugs, and just be calm and peaceful, right?
Yeah.
And they want to go investigate the basement tomorrow. That's been locked up, where the dad had his office and study where he studied his insects at. Nobody's been down there since his dad passed away. They said 12 years ago or so. So the mom says, "We'll go look at it tomorrow. We'll go finally open it up, go down there and check it out," right? Mm-hmm. The mom leaves to go to her second job, go to work. He's in his room just hanging out with his insects. We see cut to a table in his room, and you see like books about bugs, a book that apparently his dad wrote, even that we see like his dad's photo on the back of the book, and it talks about the dad, like a little author bio,
Yeah.
We see like a stuffed animal of a spider too, which spiders, by the way, people get this confused, but spiders are arachnids. Mm-hmm. Arachnids have 8 legs, insects 6 legs. Just a fact for you. So,
what's that one saying? Something for food. What's that old saying?
I don't know, my friend.
Not fish. Fish are friends, not food. Not that one. No, it's
that's a quote from
thought for food.
A quote. Or food for thought.
Food for thought.
You're
that's
thinking
what
of
I'm
food for
thinking
thought.
of. Yeah, food
that's
for
what
thought.
you're thinking of, the old saying there.
Little food.
But yeah,
little food
remember everybody,
right
insects have 6 legs. Arachnids have 8
legs.
Which is spiders, and like scorpions are arachnids too, actually, because they have 8 legs. So insects 6 legs. Anyways, and we see a flashback, to the narrator narrating, which we learn, by the way, that the person narrating is Slade, by the way, our main character. It turns out we learn at the end of the book here if he's the one narrating. We see I see a flashback of the dad at his desk in the basement studying. He's looking at his some beetles he has in a terrarium. Well, then all of a sudden, his older brother, comes down. Of course, this is a flashback, so the older brother is younger. He's looking for his dad. He went down to the basement and see, what was going on because he'd been down there for a while apparently. And he found, unfortunately, his dad had, his deceased body there. And his deceased body was covered in insects because someone came in and smashed up a lot of the terrariums and stuff. And it looks like his dad was, unfortunately, also deceased. So, as you can see that's why the older brother has a bad temper and he really hates bugs, hates insects. So unfortunately, Slade is in his own room minding his own business. His brother freaks out. He grabs cans of this bug killer called Ray's or whatever, kicks the door in to his little brother's room, and just starts stomping on his terrariums, crashing all his insects and spraying everywhere. So horrible, right?
Yeah.
Horrible. Being a horrible big brother. Horrible big brother. Being a horrible jerk, horrible bully. Unfortunate, trying to kill all of his insects that were, not bothering him at all, in Slade's room, out of the way. And so Slade had a favorite beetle, a rhinoceros beetle. One of my favorite beetles, by the way, too. They just look cool.
They
look very
awesome.
cool.
And they shimmer, don't they?
They shimmer, shine, big armored backs, big old
huge
horn.
Yeah.
So his favorite beetle, Pack.
And they sound like, I mean, sorry to interrupt, but they sound like helicopters when they fly.
Right, big wings. So he's trying to save at least his favorite beetle, Pack. Pack is on the run, which I can imagine he'd be running, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's trying to follow him out. His brother pushes Slade out of the room. He just pushes him out the way. He's telling Pack to run. He's trying to go after him. His older brother falls and slips. So Slade gets away. He's chasing Pack the beetle. Well, Pack runs under the door into the basement. So Slade gets the key to the basement that they were going to open up tomorrow, him and his mom, to the basement of his dad's old office and study where he studied his insects at, right? And wrote his books and stuff, apparently. But he needs to get in there now because it's to save his favorite beetle, to make sure he's okay, because he slid underneath the door.
Yeah.
So Slade goes down to the basement. There's cobwebs everywhere. It's dusty. No one's been down there, since his dad passed away, right, a long time. And he picks up a book, apparently, that his dad had been working on called Adventures in the Yard. And he's like, what's a mite? M-Y-T-E. Because remember, we talked about these little people called the mite people.
Yeah.
And so, of course, his older brother's coming down the steps after him. And he's like, oh no. And he's like, where's Pack? And he's like, there you are. And Pack goes in the hole in the wall. Slade puts his hole in this wall too. And then, of course, the angle of the panel, the camera angle, as we see these little mite people are seeing Slade's hand come into this hole in the wall, and they're watching him as he's trying to grab Pack the beetle, right? Uh-huh. And then Pack's hand hits his little medallion, okay? And all of a sudden, this green we're dealing with more magic here, folks. All of a sudden, this green flash of light goes, flash. And then next thing you know, Slade wakes up, and he's like, I'm awake. And he's actually on top of Pack, his rhinoceros beetle, because he's been struck down to mite size, right? So he's in the yard now too. Pack is in the yard with Slade on top of Pack. And then he meets some beetle barbarians, but they're raiders. They're trying to raid and steal his beetle and raid anything that he has because they're raiders. Yeah. So they're not good people either, unfortunately. No. So he's having a bad, horrible day. His brother's being a horrible jerk, bullying him, pushing him down, killing his insects and bugs that are his pets that he loves to study, killing them. He's also trying to rescue his favorite beetle, Pack, at least. Now he's been shrunk down to tiny size, and now these raiders are trying to attack him, trying to steal his beetle and raid him. Well, Pack the beetle puts a horn right through one of the raiders. He goes, like I said, brutal, just horn through a guy. Boom, stabbed, gone. Well, there's a guy that's got Slade off, and Slade falls off the Pack of the beetle. Raider picks him up. He's like, I won't, he's like, I won't tell you again that we're going to take all your stuff, the raiders. And he's like, you know what? I'm tired of being pushed around today, okay? I had enough of it. All of a sudden, Slade just punches the guy, and Slade's narrating going, he's like, he's around 15 years old is the age range that I saw interviews with Jason Aaron and the artist drawing this. And at 15-ish, so freshman year of high school is what we're looking at.
Yeah.
Age range rise, right? And he's narrating going, I've never punched anyone before. He said, I've never even kissed anyone or even scored any points in any sports game whatsoever, right? He's like, I only make C's in school, man. I hang my head down. Unfortunately, he says, my head hangs down all the time. Yeah. He's like, I've never done anything that no one could just ignore and treat and not even notice I'm even there, right? Yeah. And here I am having to fight for my life. And he punches somebody, and this epic, brutal splash page of his fists literally going through somebody. I'll just say that. His fists go through somebody. So apparently, not only is he shrunken down, but he's like super strong now because he can literally take his fist and punch through somebody, kills the guy instantly because he got a hole through him, right? So like I said, not for young readers, not for young bugs. This is rated M for mature, for mature bugs, if you will. Only for mature bugs, because it gets brutal. The action is awesome, but it is brutal, man. I'm telling you, I love it. There's a lot of heart in this story, but there's a lot of brutal action in this story too. So if you love both those things, this story's got both.
Yeah.
So I recommend Bug Wars. I'm telling you, it just came out this week, folks. Go find a comic shop. Go anywhere you can buy comics and pick it up somewhere.
So that's where it ends right there.
Well, it does. It ends right here. Him going, holy crap. It says something I won't say on this show.
Yeah.
But by all means, of course, that I won't say.
Yeah.
But he says, holy crap. He's like, I just punched the guy and he just died. You know what I mean? Of course, you'd be freaking out too if that happened, because the camera cuts, the panels cut to, it's at night, they're in the yard, and it shows the front of the house, and there's lightning bugs everywhere lighting up the yard. Because, of course, if you live in the South, summertime, lightning bugs are everywhere, man. I love them. Oh. And, of course, it cuts to going next, Prisoner of the Beetle Lord. So we'll find out what happens to Slade on this adventure, and I'm telling you, I recommend Bug Wars. I'm loving it. It's great. Jason Aaron's awesome. He said this might be the most personal book he's ever written, by the way, too.
Really?
So,
wow.
Because in the back there actually is, if you know fantasy stories, like Conan the Barbarian, like Lord of the Rings, you know that.
Yes, they have
maps.
Yeah.
I'm all about some fantasy maps, man. Well, Jason Aaron, an artist here, did a rough sketch of the exact yard he grew up in Alabama, actually, and then they made a fantasy map, as I'm showing Jag here, folks, a fantasy map of the backyard.
Wow.
And it's incredible. I'm telling you, like, really, this speaks to my inner kid. Like, this is what I did. Most people did as a kid. I did as a kid, where, like, your yard is your fantasy world, man. And I'm telling you, please pick up this book. Please support it. You're not going to be disappointed. I'm telling you. I'll say this with confidence, that when I recommend a book to you, I buy these things with my own money that I earn at my job, okay? So when I buy these by these creators, I'm going to recommend them to you. You won't be disappointed with these stories we're going to recommend on the show, okay? Oh, yeah. I recommend Redcoat, and like I said, I recommend Bug Wars. If you love fantasy stories, if you love exploring new worlds, and you love some epic Conan the Barbarian, packing, slashing action, okay? No punches are being pulled here, as we just found out, right?
Yeah.
I can't recommend Bug Wars enough. I read this today. I read it today, Jag. I'm telling you, I fell in love with it instantly. I actually have 3 copies of issue 1.
And knowing you throughout the years that I've known you, 8 years, 9 years?
Golly, time flies, doesn't it? It's been a long time now.
You have always had great comics throughout the years.
Oh, thank you, my friend. I appreciate that.
The hardbacks that you brought in.
Oh, yes.
Had awesome novels. I remember you had a Batman one that was like, it was huge. It was like what you were talking to me about earlier about having, there was another comic that you had that was like really, really tall. Well, it was a graphic novel.
Are you talking about my artist edition? The big art book by IDW? Yes. Like Batman Year One artist edition?
Yeah.
Where they folks, like, we'll get into discussing those books too, and I'll bring a book, and we can just talk about those books. But IDW has been doing these for since 2012, I believe now.
Yeah.
They've been doing these, they call it artist editions. They go around and get the original comic book art and scan it at original size. Because if you know about comics, is that the paper they draw on, actually the artist draws on, is actually very big, and then it gets shrunk down to book size when the actual book that you buy and read.
Oh wow!
So, but the original art is big for when the artist is drawing and the inker's inking the pencils, lines, and everything, and so forth. And so IDW goes around and gets original comic book art and scans it at original size and make these books. So you actually get the book is that big, so they're ginormous, but they're well worth it because you can see every single pencil line, ink line. You can see every detail. You can see coffee stains. You can see where they had it taped to their drawing. Tape was there, still left there when they had it taped to the drawing board, drawing table, however you want to call it. And then you see all the whiteout they used, where they kind of had to redraw something, and things like that. You see all that. So those books they're expensive, but they are well worth it because they're the closest thing you can get to besides just trying to fork over the hundreds of dollars or to buy original art.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that one day too. But anyways, Bug Wars, it hits me in the feels. It hits me like when it does great action, hits you in the feels too. I'm excited to read Bug Wars by Jason Aaron. It's going to be a fun ride. I'm telling you, there's great comics out there, great stories out there. Just go out, find them. And we're not supported by like I said anybody. We're not sponsored by anybody. But if there's not a comic shop close to you and a good driving distance, I'm going to recommend 3 online retailers actually that I currently have started to use. Actually, 4 retailers, by the way. Like I said, we're not sponsored by anybody, but I use them personally. I've spent my own personal money with these people, and they've treated me very, very well. So there's Third Eye Comics. Just go to Google, type in Third Eye Comics, find their website. Recommend them. I recommend Golden Apple Comics as well. Just go to Google, type in Golden Apple Comics, and I recommend Midtown Comics as well. Right, go to the website, and then I also recommend Cheap Graphic Novels as well. Golden Apple is located in California, and so is Cheap Graphic Novels. They're in California. I don't remember where Third Eye is at, but Midtown is in New York City. It's like one of the largest comic shops in the country in New York City. They got 3 locations actually in New York City.
Oh, wow.
So Midtown's a big place. Lots of people go there for signings and stuff too, writers and artists and everything. But my point is that you can if you don't have a shop that's in driving and a decent driving distance to where you live, you can get online. These people got flat rate shippings. I think the shipping for most of these people are like $5. You know what I mean, for flat rate shipping. I think $6.99 is one of them. I think $7 is another one. You know what I mean? So flat rate shipping doesn't cost much at all. They got great prices too. Cheap Graphic Novels has got a lot of omnibuses and hardcovers and paperbacks for great prices, below cover prices by all means. And believe me, they package everything superbly and very well, where everything arrives safe. Yeah. I'm sorry, like Amazon is very fast with their shipping and convenient, and you can get free shipping from Amazon a lot of times.
But you get that comic all
sometimes, unfortunately, and I'm not just hating because I order things on Amazon too. Yeah. I'm not just discredit. I'm not going to discredit them because I use them by all means. Yeah. But sometimes, thankfully, like with the return policy is easy, but you got to take the time to return something and drop it off.
Yeah.
But sometimes with Amazon, they just throw it in a big box and it's sitting there jingling around, gets all dinged up and damaged. But I'm telling you, Cheap Graphic Novels, if you buy an omnibus from them, it's going to come intact. It's going to be packed to the brim with packaging material where it's safe. Same thing with Third Eye, same thing with Golden Apple, same thing with Midtown. I bought single issues from them mainly, and the single issues come bag and board already. They come compacted, safely secured, where they're not going to just sling around the box or anything. Yeah. But so flat rate shipping from those guys. So if you don't have a comic shop that's close by to you, get on Third Eye's website, get on Golden Apple's website, get on Midtown's website, get on Cheap Graphic Novels website, find them, scroll, found around, find Bug Wars, find Red Coat, add to cart, and buy those books, okay?
Yeah.
So
the way you were saying it was so funny. As you were saying shop, the only thing I can think of, and a lot of you probably already know what I'm thinking, I'm thinking Wonka the whole time you were saying shop.
Okay.
And in my mind, I'm thinking, to get a comic, you need a shop. In order to get a shop, you need a comic.
I got you. I haven't seen Wonka still, so I don't know.
I am so sorry. My bad.
I know you know me. I don't. Spoilers don't bother me. You know me. But anyways, I'm gonna. Like I said, I'm super excited for Bug Wars. Red Coat's been great. There's, like I said, we're gonna do. Like I said, folks, we're gonna do stuff consistent. We're gonna keep on doing this show together, talking about great comics, because there's lots of great comics to talk about.
Well, dude, I just wanted to appreciate you, man. Thanks for joining on the show. Again, go ahead, like, comment, and subscribe just so you're up to date with everything, with all the videos that I post. Go check out the other channels that I have under the Fireside Talks umbrella. Thank you guys all again for joining in. Again, my name is Jag. I've got my quote-unquote cup of joe. My friend Jeff over here actually had his cup of joe.
Oh, yeah. It's gone now.
It's gone now. It's finished. Now. Thank you guys so much. I love you guys. You guys have an amazing night. and I and Jeff will see you guys later on. Peace out.